there world, it is me, HLModTech, and I'm back with another Tinkercad lesson for you. I was thinking with it being so cold here in Michigan, why don't we take our Igloo and let's make it even more incredible. If you didn't make the Igloo the first day, I will put a link to that up here in the corner so you can go back and do that training. It's pretty easy and fun, and there's a lot of room for you to expand it. Let me show you what I got planned for expanding mine. So, if you don't remember, this was my Igloo made out of the cool paraboloid and then some other parts as we cut it out and made it so it looked pretty darn sweet. I want to put mine up on top of a pond though, and I'm going to use a cool technique to make that happen. First, I'm just going to bring out a cylinder to make my pond. I'm going to stretch it to some crazy shapes. I'm going to make it exactly 2 millimeters thick. I'm going to do Control D to make a second one. I'm going to make them both pond ice blue. I should have probably done that before I duplicated. I'm also going to give them lots of sides so they're nice and round. And now that I've got it perfect, I'm going to even duplicate one more with Control D. So my theory is that if I just adjust these around and drag them to crazy shapes, I can make a pretty cute little pond without a whole lot of effort. Stretch that out, make it so it's crazy. When I've got my pond shaped the way I want, I'm going to hide my Igloo real quick. I'm going to click on my fireplace. I'm going to press W on the blue pond, and I'm going to hit D to drop my fireplace to that new height. When I bring in my Igloo, I'm going to click on it as well, and I'm going to do D to drop it to the new height as well. So that way it is above my adorable little pond that I built. I am going to turn my pond into one item. I'm going to shut off the work plane first, and then I'm going to hold down Shift and select all three pieces. Notice it says 3 shapes selected, and then when I group them, I've got my little pond that I can put my Igloo on. Now, it may not be smart to put a Igloo on a pond, but that doesn't mean I don't want to do it. We can think of my pond maybe as kind of a shanty. So what I'm going to do now, if I'm going to make it a shanty, is I'm going to make a hole to fish in. So I'm going to bring out a cylinder hole, and I'm going to shrink it down to a size that I think would be appropriate for ice fishing. Once you start shrinking it, if you type a number, it shrinks all of them at once as long as you were holding the shift. Now I'm going to push that down in, and when I group those two pieces, I will have a hole to fish in. When I used to fish, I used to sit on top of a 5-gallon pail sometimes, so let's make our own 5-gallon pail super fast. I'm going to make it nice and round. I'm going to hold down Shift and shrink it all again till I find what I think is bucket size. I'm going to go a little smaller than that. And then I'm going to do Control D to make a second one. Seems like my buckets were always green, so I'm going to make it green. I'm going to raise it up just a little bit. I'm going to take the second one. I'm going to do Fit View to Selection. I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to shrink it just a little bit more. Make it a hole. And then I'm going to line it up so that it can cut out the bucket for me. So when I take these two items, hold one, hold Shift, and click the other. Notice it now says 2 shapes. I'm going to align them and align them. And I like that that's aligned to the bottom because that'll cut it out better. And now when I group them and peek underneath, I'll have a bucket. Now right now my bucket's sitting through the ice, so I'm going to do that cool work plane trick where I set the work plane on the top of the ice, click the item, hit the letter D, and it will be raised up. Just to prove it, I'm going to lift it up in the air, and there is the inside of my bucket. Hit D to drop it back to that bucket level. And I want to add a little rim around my bucket. I'm going to do that with the tube. When you bring the tube out, you'll notice that it's huge. You could type fancy numbers, but I'm just going to shrink it holding Shift and making it a little bit smaller. Make it super skinny. If you change the grid to something really small, you can get kind of realistic on these. I'm going to make it green just like the other part. Helps if I actually pick the exact same green. I accidentally moved my pond. I'm going to do Control Z. I'm going to hold Shift and select both of those. And I'm going to do a line. And I'm going to do a line. And then I'm going to use the cone to lift it up. And do Control D and lift the second one up as well. Those are a little thicker than I normally make them. So I'm going to use another fancy trick, which is Alt-Shift, and then it shrinks around its middle until I'm perfectly happy. And instead of trying to do that twice, I'm going to do Control-D, and I'm going to push my new perfect one down. And that's the look I was going for. Hold down Shift, take my 3 items, make it a group, and I've got a nifty 5-gallon pail for fishing off of. I'm going to press W and put the work plane back on the bottom. And then I'm going to draw a funny little fish to have a fish poking out using the scribble tool. So I just want my fish's head. So I'm just going to go like this so it's got a little fish head. And then I think I'm going to give him the start of a fin going back here, but it'll just be missing. And let's see what that looks like when we hit done. Make it thinner. Give it an eyeball. I'm going to do that with the pink half sphere. Shrink that down holding Shift so that it shrinks all at once. I'm going to press W to put the work plane on top and then press D to bring that piece up to the right height. And then I'm just going to move that eye over. Instead of going by these point ones, well, I'm going to go by point 1 and I'm going to just drag it where I want. If I do Fit View to Selection, I can get a better grip on it. And move it over to where the fish's eye would be. I'm going to make my fish a green or a gray. I'm going to make a gray fish. If I group that and turn on multicolor so that all the colors come through, let's see if it looks like a fish when it's peeking out. First things, I'm going to stand it up. Then I'm going to rotate it around. Press W to shut off that work plane, and let's move our fish into the hole. I think that looks pretty darn nifty. I'm going to shrink them a little bit by holding Shift and just making them smaller. And boom, I've got a silly little fish coming out of my fishing hole. I'm going to use the cylinder to make a fishing pole real quick. Just hold down Shift and shrink that till it's tiny. Using Fit View to Selection allows you to get much smaller shapes. I'm going to go down to about 2 millimeters thick. And that'll be the handle of the fishing pole. And then I'm going to do another one, so I'm going to do Control D to duplicate. This one I'm going to take down to real thin. So one nice thing about holding Shift is you can type the number you want. So I'm going to type 0.3, but then I can make it nice and long. And I'm going to make that a different color. I'm going to make it a gray. And then if I select the top of this orange piece and click on the gray piece and hit D, it'll drop it to that exact height. Then I can take both of those shapes and I can center them so that now my fishing pole is ready for fishing. Once again, I'll group them, turn on that multicolor, and then I'm going to use the tilt to set it so that it can be over by my fishing hole. Remember, if you ever make a mistake like I just grabbed something I didn't want to, you can just use Control Z to undo it. I'm going to lift this up to a height where I think it'd be reasonable. Let's look at it from the top, once again using the cool view cube. And let's rotate this around so that it's in a location so it'd be useful for fishing. Wrong one. I want to move it instead of rotate it. That looks like it'd be pretty darn groovy. So hey there friends, it's just a fun little video. Added a couple things to our cool igloo project. A little bit of ice, a fish, a fishing hole, and a fishing pole. If you make something cool, please share it with us at HLModTech on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. If you enjoyed the movie, please hammer that like button. If you got a question or a comment, please leave it down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Mash that subscribe button, and last but not least, click that notification bell to be the first to know when there's a brand new movie from me, HLModTech. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.